How to avoid muddy colors. Okay, so first things first, super basic sounding maybe for you guys. So easiest way to avoid muddy colors is going to be to have 2 jars of water. So one of your jars could be to rinse off your pigment and then to get clean water. So you have a dirty cup and a clean cup, or you can separate them by warm color or cool colors and warm colors. This would be cool if we have some blues, greens, yellows, cool bias yellows, and then we have our oranges, pinks, reds, purples, all of that in the other cup. So either clean and dirty or warm and cool. The reason for that is if you are picking up, and mixing a ton of pigment or rinsing off a ton of pigment in one cup, then you're also picking that up with that same brush and adding it to your pure pigments or to your colors or to your mixtures. So if you want to keep your colors less muddy, more clean, then try to keep your water cups separated warm and cool or separated dirty and clean. And if you are doing warm and cool, then the second tip to avoid muddy colors is to also avoid mixing warm and cool colors together. There's nothing wrong necessarily with muddy colors. It's just a different look. So if you want vibrant, pure looking colors on your paper, then you're going to want to separate warm and cool colors. And the reason for that is if you look at a color wheel, you'll notice that for contrasting colors that sit directly opposite of each other on a color wheel, there's always a warm color and a cool color in that combination. So for example, red and green are opposing colors. They're contrasting colors. Red is a warm color, green is a cool color. And of course, there's biases with colors, like there could be cool reds, there could be warm reds, there could be cool greens and warm greens. But traditionally speaking, red and green are warm and cool. So contrasting colors incorporate a warm and a cool color. So if you mix red and green together, for example, like if I were to take this swatch of Scarlet Lake, and this sap green, and blend them together. And in the middle, you'll notice we have a brownish, we need more green in there. There's a lot of red being mixed in. So we're getting a brownish mixture, a brownish red, which again, isn't necessarily bad. This would be great for, tree trunks or landscapes or even skin tones. But if you're wanting something to look more vibrant, you want a bright red instead of a muted brick red, or your bright green instead of a sagey olive green with a little red mixed in, then you want to make sure to avoid mixing warm and cool colors. The same will happen if we're mixing, let's do orange and blue. So let's do Prussian blue for one swatch. So we've got Prussian blue and then orange. When you mix contrasting colors, you'll always get either brown or like a grayish color, something just less vibrant, more muted and muddy. So here's our orange and blue and what it looks like mixed together. Kind of this nasty green, because this orange has a lot of yellow in it. So it's kind of making green, but it's like sorry to gross people out, but like a pukey green. But that orange has a lot of yellow in it. So it's got a little bit of green undertone coming through. So whenever you're mixing warm and cool colors, you're going to get some sort of murky, muddy, depending on the color combination, something gray, something brown undertone. Again, nothing wrong with being having muddy colors. It's just a different look. So again, if you want pure, vibrant colors, I like to keep my warm colors, so my reds, pinks, oranges, yellows, yellow ochre's in here too, on one side of my palette. So I'm mixing up all of my warm colors over here, and then all of my cool colors on the left side of my palette, and I'm mixing up my secondary colors like greens and yellow greens and all of that, or grays with cool undertones, grays with warm undertones in these separate dishes. So I don't have to clean my palette as often. I'm not getting, muddiness in these colors that I don't want, because I like to paint with really rich and vibrant colors. I don't really paint super muted all the time. So that's another tip. And then My next tip would be to think about the bias of the color. So if you're wanting to mix colors together, let's say blue and yellow together for a green, some blues and yellows will lean either toward red or toward, for example, if blue is more red bias, and then you also combine it with a yellow that is more, a blue that's more red bias, and then a yellow that's more blue bias, then you're gonna have a full spectrum of color. So if you have, and you're mixing in a lot more colors together than just blue and yellow. So let's say, obviously our primary colors are red, blue, and yellow. Let's do red, blue. And then we've got our red. And yellow. Let's make this blue bigger. That's going to bother me. So we've got 3 primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. And let's say we want to mix together blue and yellow to make green. Well, this yellow in particular, this is lemon yellow deep. If you look at it closely, if you look at any color closely, you can kind of pull out a sense of what its undertone is or what its bias is. So this yellow is biased towards red. It has kind of like a little orangey undertone. And then this blue is biased towards yellow. And then there's other blues that are biased towards, like for example, this ultramarine blue that I just made on my own. We'll link the video. Is biased toward purple. It has like a reddish undertone to it. So if I'm combining ultramarine blue and Prussian blue with this yellow, it's going to be a different result. So let's do a little combination with our lemon yellow deep and our Prussian blue, which is going to have this nice vibrant green. So obviously with these, we're using the same exact yellow, but the blues are different. And this ultramarine blue is just a little bit more purpley undertone. It's still very blue, but it's a stronger, like red leaning bias color. So when you mix red and green together, red and green are contrasting colors, you get more murky, muddy undertones instead of a vibrant, clean, pure looking green or undertone. So the ultramarine blue and lemon yellow deep just kind of creates like a grayish tone to it, whereas Prussian blue, which isn't really biased toward any direction, it's pretty pure, mixed with lemon yellow deep makes a more vibrant green. Obviously, going on top of the yellow will get more green. Show that green more. See how this is like a weirdish gray green? Nothing wrong with it, it's just a different vibe. So my 3 biggest tips for you to avoid muddy colors is to separate your warm and cool colors in your water cups or do dirty and clean. To separate your warm and cool colors in your mixing wells, in your palette, because contrasting colors or combining warm and cool is usually gonna mix up and create muddy colors. And then also to think about the colors that you're mixing together. So even if they aren't contrasting colors and you want to mix blue and yellow together or red and yellow together for orange, whatever it is, think about the leaning or the bias of each individual color. And if they're leaning further away from each other, then they're going to create more muddiness. Then think about that when you're mixing the colors. If you want things to look more vibrant and pure, then try and mix colors that aren't as biased or are closer together, if that makes sense, on the color wheel. And then bonus tips, obviously making sure you are really cleaning off a color from your brush in your water cup. So I like to go and really swirl my brush around in the bottom of my cup and swipe it off. And if I need to, changing out my water as well. If it's starting to look really murky or muddy, then I'll get clean, fresh water, because again, the longer you paint, the more you paint throughout the day, the more pigment you're adding to your water. So it can definitely get muddy. So clean, fresh water is going to help with that as well. Making sure you have a really clean brush before you pick up a new color if you don't want it to get mixed with anything or end up getting murky and muddy. Super simple, but it's always something to be thinking about as you're painting. So stay aware of the direction your colors are leaning or your water is leaning. And if you don't want muddy colors, keep changing it up and obviously listening to those tips that I gave you in this video. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that was useful and helpful for you. If there's something that I forgot to mention in this video, another tip to help avoid muddy colors, drop them in the comments. I'm sure other people watching would love the extra bits of information, the bonus tips. And then if you are brand new to watercolor, we have tons and tons of videos on this YouTube channel that will help you avoid all of the mishaps and mistakes that a lot of beginners run into when they're starting out with watercolor. So we'll make sure to link to those videos. I have a beginner like crash course to watercolor. That is a really, really good video, really long and thorough video, basically a free beginner's course to watercolor. So make sure you check that one out and I'll see you in the next video.